They don't want you to know this, but this file wasn't banned for being dangerous. It was banned because it worked. It didn't guide people. Rewired them. One session with this method exposed more than years of therapy, and that's why they buried it. Let me be clear from the start. This technique was never designed for therapy. It wasn't created to make people feel better. It was created to make people see even if what they saw broke them. There are two worlds inside every human being. The surface world, where we smile, explain, and pretend to understand ourselves, and the subconscious world where the truth lives untouched, unspoken, and often too disturbing to confront. The black file technique was born in the space between those worlds. It started in underground trauma studies in the early 80s, unofficial reports off their ORD, case notes, files that never reached publication. Researchers were experimenting with what they called deep retrieval methods, tools to access buried memories and suppressed emotional blueprints. One file stood out, a report marked classified behavioral interruption protocol. Inside it was a single line scribbled by hand. Subject accessed a memory never reported in 15 years of therapy. Result: emotional collapse followed by identity reconfiguration. Technique banned from future sessions. That scribbled method became the seed of what would later be whispered about as the black file technique. Now, here's the part no one tells you. This technique wasn't banned because it was harmful. It was banned because it was too effective. It doesn't work like therapy. It doesn't build rapport. It doesn't validate your feelings or tell you you're doing great. It bypasses the stories you've rehearsed. It slips under the narrative, pulls open the drawer where your unedited truth lives, and makes you read it with your own eyes. When therapists were shown early results, many refused to implement it. Some said it lacked empathic framing. Others called it too destabilizing for the average client. But off record, they admitted the real reason. If a person sees what's in the black file too soon, they can't go back to who they were pretending to be. That's the power of it. Now you might be wondering what's actually in this file. The truth is, every person has one. It's not literal. It's not ink and paper. It's a psychological construct, a collection of repressed experiences, trauma-induced beliefs, identity fractures, and suppressed instincts that form the true programming of your behavior. It explains why you sabotage intimacy, why you chase people who reject you, why you lash out in moments that don't deserve your rage, why you shut down when people get too close, why you succeed in public but rot in silence when you're alone. And here's the worst part. You didn't even create it. Most of it was installed by your environment, your childhood, your culture, and sometimes the pain of people who raised you. That's why most people live on autopilot. They're not broken. They're just following a script they've never seen. A black file that controls them from the shadows. So, why am I telling you this now? Because in a world of surface-level healing, fake positivity, and dopamine-based self-help, you deserve the real tools. You don't need another TED Talk about self-love. You don't need to repeat affirmations while ignoring the trauma still clawing at your ribs. You need a flashlight and the courage to walk into the basement of your mind where the black file waits. But I'm warning you, once you access it, your relationship with yourself will change. You may find parts of you that are cruel, wounded, manipulative, terrified, brilliant, or numb. You'll face memories you thought were gone, patterns you thought were destiny, and choices you didn't even know you were making. That's the cost of clarity. That's the entry fee to this technique. You don't get to stay innocent. Till here? Then prepare yourself because in Part 2 I'll walk you through the exact step, not in theory but in the real-world psychological framework that lets you locate, access, and retrieve the most suppressed parts of your internal code. You will not be the same, but if you're brave enough to continue, you'll never be confused again, because once you hold the black file, you stop reacting and start understanding. Now that you understand what the black file is, here's the part that changes everything. This chapter isn't about theory, it's about application. But don't get excited just yet because this isn't a hack, it's a confrontation, and it comes with a warning. If you follow these steps properly, you won't come back the same. This method wasn't built for journaling or introspection. It was constructed to interrupt your autopilot, pierce through your conscious defense systems, and reveal the raw data your mind has been hiding from you, often for decades. You're not going to visualize magical houses or descend into fantasy staircases. This is psychological exposure rooted in 5 core phases. Use this responsibly. Do not do this if you're emotionally unstable, sleep-deprived, or already overwhelmed. You need a grounded nervous system and a sharp, clear head, because once you access a real file, and I mean really access it, you may awaken suppressed emotion that will demand to be processed immediately. Step 1: Preparation. This step is simple, but most people skip it, and that's why they fail. Find a quiet, locked space. No phone, no screens, no background music. Sit upright in a chair. No couch, no bed. Have a notebook and pen, not a keyboard. Handwriting slows you down, and that's important. Set a timer for 45 minutes. You're not allowed to get up until it rings. This isn't a meditation, it's a mission. Step 2: Dump the surface files. Open your notebook. Write this prompt at the top. What are the 10 moments I never talk about but still think about? Don't overanalyze. Just list 1 line per entry. No paragraphs, no justification. Some of these moments will seem stupid. Others might make your hands shake. That's the point. Your black file is somewhere on this list, but your conscious mind has spent years protecting it. Step 3: Locate the fracture. Now scan your list and look for these signals. You feel a sudden tightness in your chest or gut. You almost skipped over one moment like it doesn't matter. You feel nothing about pure numbness. That's the one. Mind doesn't hide what's irrelevant. Hides what's too heavy to hold. Circle that moment. Step 4: Interrogate the memory. Write the full memory out, but from pure sensory recall. What was the room like? Who else was present? What words were spoken right before it all changed? What did your body feel? Hot, frozen, dissociated? Then answer these 3 questions directly. What did this event teach me to hide? What part of myself died in that moment? What belief about the world did I adopt that day? You feel uncomfortable, good. That means you're in the file. Step 5: Stay with the discomfort. Here's where most people abort. You're going to want to close the notebook. You're going to want to distract yourself. Don't sit still for 10 full minutes. No writing, no movement. Just let the truth echo in your body. You're not analyzing anymore. You're absorbing. This step rewires your relationship to the memory, not by fixing it, but by finally facing it without denial. Step 6: Translate the file. Now write a second list, but this time it's titled How This Moment Still Controls Me. List 5 ways that old moment still shows up today. Your relationships, your tone when you argue, the reason you overachieve or self-sabotage, why you fear abandonment, or over-control people, how you respond to compliments or praise. Each bullet you write is a line of code still active in your system from one old file. Now, it's not subconscious anymore. You've just made it conscious. Step 7. Close the session. End with this phrase, written in ink. This memory is now decoded. I don't need to relive it to reclaim it. Then stand up. Go outside. Breathe. Touch something physical. Geek. Out loud. Laugh. What? This step is critical. Do not stay in the mental chamber. Otherwise, the file reabsorbs, and you lose the clarity you just earned. Final warning. Never open more than one file in a single session. Brain protects you with denial for a reason. Violating that boundary can cause psychic destabilization. And I mean that literally. This isn't therapy. This is internal reconnaissance. It's not for everyone. Now you know the process. Not imagined, not symbolic, but real, effective, and brutally honest. The black file technique works because it forces you to stop intellectualizing your wounds and start locating them. Once you can locate them, you can rewire them. That's where Chapter 3 begins. Before we get into the next chapter, let me tell you something. I've already exposed 15 forbidden laws they never wanted you to see. Not just laws about intelligence, but the real reasons your potential was chained. Schools never taught you these. Society hides them. And those in power, they've used these laws for decades while keeping you blind. Because once you read them, you stop thinking like a follower and start moving like a weapon. This isn't self-help. This is cognitive warfare. These laws weren't made to motivate. They were designed to untrain your mind from the systems that kept you weak, obedient, and forgettable. The full ebook just dropped. You'll find it in the comments. Access it now before it disappears. The black file technique doesn't guide. It doesn't heal gently. It rips open a door your mind sealed shut for survival. And that's exactly why it was never included in therapy textbooks. Not because it lacked results, but because its results were too immediate and too raw. Mainstream psychology is built on slow excavation, trust building, gradual exploration, emotional containment. But this technique bypasses all of that. Doesn't care if you're ready. It doesn't wait until you're safe. It shows you the thing you've spent your entire life hiding from yourself. There's a reason your mind avoid certain memories. They were too much at the time, too painful, too humiliating, too overwhelming to process. So instead, the brain files them away. It builds false narratives around them. I'm just not a relationship person. I've always been like this. I don't know why I panic. I just do lies. Not conscious lies, but survival-based distortions. Black file technique forces you to remove those filters and see the exact belief, trauma, or moment of collapse that programmed you. Most people can't handle that level of clarity, not because they're weak, but because their identity is built around the avoidance. Early trauma researchers who tested versions of this technique reported terrifying result. Clients entering identity confusion, emotional disintegration within minutes, memory surfacing that had been buried for 20+ years, a complete loss of emotional narrative control. This wasn't gentle progress, it was psychological confrontation. And in response, many therapists backed off, not because it was invalid, but because it was too true. Too quickly. It became clear if a person accesses their black file too fast, they will see who they really are underneath the performance. And once you see that, You can't unsee it, which makes you unpredictable, unmanageable, free. Not just about safety, it's about control. Here's the uncomfortable part. The technique wasn't just suppressed for mental health concerns, it was suppressed because it disrupts the therapeutic business model. When someone uses the black file technique correctly, they stop outsourcing validation, stop relying on therapists to decode them, stop needing books, courses, or coaches to feel healed because now they've accessed the source code. They know why they self-sabotage. They know where the abandonment wound came from. They know how the belief "I don't deserve love" was installed, by whom and when. Once that happens, they don't need 40 sessions to process. They need space to rebuild. Alone from truth, not theory. That what makes the technique dangerous, not to the individual but to the industry. Built on endless emotional dependence. Why most people shouldn't use it. Let's be honest. If you've been avoiding certain memories for 10 or 20 years, it's not by accident. It means your current self-image, your emotional tone, even your relationships are structured around that suppression. Opening the black file too early or without preparation can collapse your sense of identity, reveal inner contradictions that destabilize your reality, awaken emotions that override logic and self-control. This isn't a technique for people looking to feel a little better. It's for people ready to burn the fake self to the ground and start over. You want the truth? Here it is. The black file technique removes illusions. Illusion is the fuel of the modern mind. Most people aren't addicted to dopamine. They're addicted to not knowing why they feel the way they do. Because the moment they do know, they're responsible. No more blaming parents. No more blaming exes. No more saying, "I don't know why I'm like this." You do know now because you've seen the file. And the second you see it, you can no longer pretend you're a victim of your mind. That kind of mental independence, it's lethal. That's why they buried it. That's why therapists were warned. That's why you were never supposed to find this video. In Chapter 4, we go deeper. Because unlocking your black file is only the beginning. What you do after you decode yourself, that's where transformation, power, and emotional weaponry begin. You've opened the file. You've seen what most people spend a lifetime avoiding. So now what? Most techniques end here. They lead you to the moment of realization, then abandon you. But realization without integration is a mental fracture. It leaves you cracked, open with nothing to bind you together. This chapter is the opposite. This is where we make the knowledge usable. Because what good is clarity if you collapse under the weight of it? Let me prepare you. After decoding your black file, expect these 5 psychological shifts. Your old narratives stop working. Things you used to tell yourself. I just overthink. I'm not lovable. That's just how I am. Suddenly feel fake. Your emotions feel sharper. Memories come up randomly. Certain smells or faces trigger unexplained reactions. You're not breaking down. Your subconscious is simply reorganizing itself. You may feel disoriented. Friends won't recognize your new emotional baseline. Conversations may feel hollow. You're not disconnected. You're just no longer faking coherence. You'll question your entire timeline. You'll look back at your past not as what happened, but as a pattern your mind was forced to adapt around. You'll want to isolate not because you're depressed, but because you're detoxing from false roles, fake connections, and performative identity. To survive this shift and turn it into strength, follow these 3 rules. Rule 1. Don't chase normal. You've outgrown your old mental operating system. Stop trying to reinstall it. You're not supposed to go back to who you were. You're not supposed to fit in anymore. You just saw the code. You decoded yourself. That's not trauma. That rebirth. Let the old version of you die. Quietly, intentionally. Rule 2: build new behavior before new belief. Forget mindset hacks for now. Forget journaling. Positivity. After you access the black file, the only way to rewire is through behavior. Say no when you would have said yes. Speak up where you used to go silent. Walk away from what you now recognize as manipulation. Don't wait until it feels right. It won't. Your nervous system is conditioned to stay in the old loop. You must act first and allow belief to follow behavior. Rule 3: install a new identity piece by piece. The most dangerous moment after awareness is the identity void. You've dismantled the fake personality. Now you need to replace it with something real. But don't rush it. Build your new identity like this. Choose one core value, just one. Example: I don't betray myself to be like. Live it for 30 days. Then choose the next. Stack, integrate, adapt. You're not creating a mask. You're constructing a mind that's congruent with truth, not performance. What you'll start to notice once you've integrated for 60-90 days, things begin to change fast. You'll feel uncomfortable around people who haven't done the work. Emotional manipulation will become obvious, like watching someone read from a bad script. You'll stop reacting. You'll start choosing. People will say you've changed, that you're colder or different. Take it as a sign. They're not talking about your tone. They're talking about your immunity. When you've fully integrated the file, you become psychologically lethal. Why? Because now you can see people's defense systems without reacting to them. You recognize manipulation before it lands. You detect projections, power games, and emotional hooks without getting pulled. And you understand your own patterns so deeply they no longer control you. You're no longer trying to be liked. You're no longer playing the identity game. You're operating from source. That is mental power, not motivation, not intelligence, not charm, power. Most people spend their lives decorating the prison of their unconscious mind. You just found the key, and instead of running from your shadow, you made it your ally. You now carry a file no one else can read but you. A file that explains you entirely, and if you choose to live by it, you will not just become more powerful, you will become unshakable, because the person who understands their own code can never be manipulated again. You made it this far. You're not the average viewer. Most people click away when the truth gets uncomfortable, but you opened the file. You saw yourself and you didn't look away. That tells me one thing. You're ready for more. So here's what I want you to do. Comment this. I've seen the file. No context. Just that the ones who know will know. And I'll be watching the comments to see who's actually doing the work. Second, if this shook something loose inside you, if your mind's been rewired or you feel like you can't go back to your old self, check the pinned comment. That's where I've linked the Whisper Power Bundle, my private vault of psychological tactics, audiobooks, and unreleased techniques. Every dark framework, every upgrade I've built, no fluff, just mental weaponry. And finally, if you're still holding back, if you're still not sure what to believe, watch the next video. I don't care which one. Just keep going, because once you open the black file, stopping halfway is not an option.